Dear colleagues and friends of the ATA Chinese Language Division, I now present to you the third installment of this very special conference series of our podcast program. If you were there in Portland this year for the annual conference, or have listened to the previous episode where Roni and Aaron were talking about how this year our division had the biggest number of conference attendees since when they first attended the conference back in 2017, you'd know that this past ATA annual conference was extra special for the Chinese language division. As Tianlu, our division administrator for the past 4 years, passes the baton to Li Ming, every single one of the 50-plus people at our division dinner in Portland this year bore witness to and experienced firsthand the warmth and kindness that Tianlu fostered in our CLD family through her exemplary leadership. I mean, we've got friends and colleagues flying in from various countries in Asia and Europe to be here. Although the number of CLD attendees to this year's conference has set a new high, I am confident that it will soon be surpassed as our division continues to grow and flourish under the leadership of Li Ming, our new division administrator, and Roni, the assistant administrator. Congratulations, Li Ming and Roni. I couldn't have imagined a better pair to take us through the next 4 years. Thank you both for taking this on. Now, back to Tianlu and her contributions to building our division. I am quite curious to know what made her sign up to this volunteer position 6 years ago. That's 2 years as the assistant administrator, followed by 4 years of the division administrator. What did she envision for the Chinese language division back then? Did she think she was going to stick to it all these years? Did she know she was going to build the CLD stronger and better than when she found it? Well, why don't we ask her? My dear listeners, I present to you our very own Tianlu Redmon. Welcome, Tianlu. Could you briefly introduce yourself to our listeners?
Sure thing. My name is Tianlu Redmon. My Chinese name is Jia Tianlu. I'm based in Houston, Texas, and I am currently running a small translation company. We focus only on Chinese English, legal translation, and interpretation. And as you mentioned, I have been very active in ATA as a volunteer. You might call me a serial volunteer. So for the past 4 years, I was the CLD's administrator. And 2 years before that, I was the assistant admin. And before that, I had volunteered at the interpreters division as well as several local chapters, affiliates. As you can tell, my love for ATA has not stopped, and it has continued into my current volunteer position, which is at AFTI, the American Foundation for Translation and Interpretation, which is ATA's foundation charitable arm where we collect donations from our members so that we can present awards to the future generation of translators and interpreters to welcome them into our profession, starting with the ATA conference every year.
Have you always been this passionate about volunteering?
You know what? I think I have now that you asked me. But I think as a professional, it just never occurred to me that I shouldn't volunteer. Because when I first started out as a freelancer back in 2014, I started going to Katie, the Carolina Association of Translators and Interpreters, social meetups from the get-go, and everybody was so welcoming to me. They showed me the ropes, how to become a freelance translator interpreter, and it was just a family of warm, welcoming colleagues. And of course, I very quickly started volunteering for them because I want to hang out with them and learn more from them. So that was the beginning of my volunteer journey, and it has not stopped, as I mentioned.
So you started your volunteer journey because you wanted to give back and you could do for others what was done for you in the first place.
Absolutely. And now, whenever I try to recruit new volunteers for whatever group that I'm with, I always tell them you'll benefit so much from volunteering with these people because not only are you gaining leadership skills, you're also showing them that you are capable of doing certain things. And very quickly, you'll start actually getting referrals from these colleagues
Mm,
for, whatever request that they might come across that might be a good fit for you. So personally, for me, joining Katie and volunteering at Katie and all of the other groups and associations has been really a big boost for my professional career. I would
mm,
not have done so well these days as I am doing now without the help of, all the people that I've come across in all
right.
these various groups.
Well, it certainly sounds like a very pleasant surprise that you went to volunteer without wanting anything in return, but it just so happened that you were getting job referrals, which helped you build your freelance business. Actually, on a second thought, although it may feel like a surprise, if we take a closer look, just like you said, Tianlu, volunteering allows the opportunity for you to show others your skills and capabilities in a very real and authentic setting. And it does build familiarity and the strong bond with others. So I think in a way, it is also not a surprise that you are the person who comes to someone's mind when they need to make a referral for a, say, translation job for between Chinese and English, right? What about other skills? Is there any other skills that you acquired in your leadership role that you didn't know you were going to acquire? And are those skills beneficial to you outside of the volunteer scenario?
Oh, absolutely. Managing projects and managing people.
Mm,
Being in a leadership position in a volunteer group requires a lot of skills in, navigating relationships with people who are not paid,
mm-hmm,
right? And a lot of times you just need to engage their interest, but also understand what they're not saying to you. Maybe they
mm,
don't want to do this particular task, but they're not telling you. So
mm,
maybe there's a way to get that information out, or simply just understand it and then move on to another volunteer who is more fit for that job.
mm-hmm,
And that also comes in handy when I'm running my own team of translators. I get to know who they are, what they're like through volunteering with them, but then I also get to know them as we're working together.
Um, Now looking back the last 6 years, did you have a clear goal for our division when you started as the leader? And if so, did you feel like those goals have been achieved?
Well, we had a very vague goal at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to do a shout out to my predecessor, Pansy Tsai.
Mm-hmm.
So she was the assistant admin and then the admin before me. And while working with her, I really got to appreciate her style. She is very passionate, welcoming, really good at connecting people and getting people together. With her help, we attracted a lot of members to attend the AT conference where we can actually meet and talk and get to know each other.
Mm-hmm.
So it started to feel like a home.
Right.
But my task was to keep everybody in the home
Mm,
because, you might get a lot of hype over one conference and then next year I might not come
mm-hmm.
because there's a whole gap of 1 year where a lot of things can happen.
Right.
So when I took over the baton from her, it happened to be the beginning of the pandemic. I
Right.
decided to, hey, why not we host some online socials where we can connect online?
Right.
And that's when we started basically monthly meeting up on Zoom with each other. And so by the time we actually came back to hybrid and in-person conference, people already know each other.
Mm,
It really felt even more like a home
mm-hmm.
with, everybody, your aunts and uncles, the extended family, everybody coming together. And then you continue to see the same faces again and again the next 4 years up until now. So I guess if I had a goal, it was to make it a home. And I
Mm-hmm.
think I have achieved that goal.
You sure did. As a member of the Chinese Language Division Leadership Council, my impression of your leadership style is gentle and kind, but also firm. You don't instruct people to do things, but instead, you inspire and guide people to take ownership, to see the bigger purpose so that we set our own goals in the direction to achieve that purpose. Did you know that this was your leadership style when you started, or was that something that developed along the way?
Not at all. I did not see myself as a leader. And when Pansy asked me to step in as her assistant admin, I figured she just needed a warm body. Like literally, that's what she told me, because that's what her predecessor told her. So, there I was as a warm body. It all just happened upon me, but for good reason at good times. And I guess I stepped up and I faced a challenge.
Now let's switch gear to talk about the conference since we are here recording this episode live in Portland, Oregon. What do you think of ATA 65?
I will say this is the best conference I've attended for years. Not just because, you know, we're in Portland, which is a beautiful town, but it was so good to see so many Chinese linguists present at the conference. We were at the Chinese language division dinner last night,
Right,
and the room was just overcrowded because we did not expect so many people turn up.
right.
I think we had probably around 60 people.
We did, yes.
And we were only expecting maybe 30 at most because that's our usual number in the
Right.
past years. And it was such a good problem to not know everybody, even though I felt a little anxious. Now, in the past years, I would always walk around the table, introduce myself. But last night I was like, well, one, I was retiring, so I don't need to do that. But two, it's like, there's so many people and so many young people, young faces. It
Right.
was amazing. I sometimes feel like a mom to our division. And it was so good to see those kids and see them enjoying each other's company and starting to get closer and closer to the core of our home as CLD. So it was a great experience.
Absolutely. Before I let you go, Tianlu, there is one last question. What is your plan after leaving the CLD leadership role?
Well, as I said earlier, I'm not stopping clearly, even if I wanted to. So I will continue to work as a AFTI board member to help bringing more students and young translators and interpreters into our profession. But I am also still staying on as a grader for the English into Chinese ATA certification exam, as well as the chair. So we are getting ready for our next year's exam. We've also had new grader joining us, retired grader saying goodbye to us. So there's going to be some transition that I can help to lead along.
Right.
And then I don't know. We'll see what else comes up, and I'm staying open to all the possibilities in the future.
I sure like the sound of that. That sometimes can be the best plan. That is to have no plan. We'll just see where things take us. Well, Tianlu, thank you so much for your time. I look forward to reuniting with you next time in Boston.
Sounds good. See you in Boston.